The texted words arrived like ice through the phone. I found someone else. I read them 3 times, hoping for a mistake. It wasn't. The sender was Emily, my wife. And the sentence landed like a verdict. We'd lived a life of small, curated comforts. Weekend brunches, a leather sofa bought on a whim, a car with a lease that smelled faintly of newness. Those things had stitched our days together until they felt like proof of commitment. The message unwove that stitching. My instinct wanted noise, shouting, demands, dramatic scenes. Instead, I did something quieter. I planned the removal of the things she used to measure life. If she wanted someone else, I would remove the stage on which she performed. I started small. I canceled the Carleys. I paused the private dinner bookings and suspended the weekly bouquet. Tiny absences accumulate until an entire landscape changes. Luxury isn't a single object. It's a pattern. Strip enough of the pattern and the story falls apart. That was the calculation. 48 hours later, the change was visible but not theatrical. A boutique called to confirm a return. The club sent an email about pending privileges. The chef had been rebooked. The housekeeper's schedule was trimmed. Everything had been handled with clinical patience, no spectacle, only consequence. When Emily opened the front door that evening, she carried the composed face people use when rehearsing grief. She paused at the threshold and scanned the room for the cues she normally used to tell her story. She noticed the absence before the chandelier or couch. Her smile arrived like a shard. "Hi," she said, as if lightness could smooth what she'd done. "Hey," I answered, voice low. Silence has its own weight. She stepped inside and braced her hands on the banister. "Where's the Maser?" she asked, trying to joke. The laugh cracked at the edge. "It's gone," I said. Her eyes sharpened. "Why?" "Because you found someone else," I answered plainly. Not anger, just fact. She blinked as if the words were foreign. For a moment, she looked like a woman who had only ever negotiated outcomes that favored her. Then she played the role she'd prepared. Surprise, wounded partner. "I didn't mean," she began, but the sentence broke. I watched her move through the room, touching things the way a person visits a museum. She paused where the bouquet usually sat, and her fingers hovered over nothing. The comforts that had cushioned her choices were gone. She tried the old script, pleas, promises, explanations. But without the props, the monologue faltered. "You can't just take things away," she said, voice flaring. It sounded petulant in the hush. I didn't defend my choices. I didn't apologize. I let the silence expand. And in that space, an unadorned truth sat between us. Actions have consequences that don't require fireworks. She sank onto the sofa like someone who had climbed a height and discovered the ground was missing. The composure peeled away. Fear emerged. She looked at me, and for the first time, the woman I loved seemed like a stranger in the ruins of our routine. "Michael," she whispered, my name like a plea. She reached for words and found only apologies that tasted thin. I made a mistake. I thought, please, but regret and haste is often a costume. The woman in front of me had tasted freedom and wanted to return when it became inconvenient. I let her speak until the sentences were spent and then told her the truth again. The life she left could not be presumed the same by default. For the first time since the message, something in me shifted. I felt the fracture settle into a new shape. This wasn't about punishment as spectacle. It was about reclaiming the terms of my life. If she wanted back in, she would have to come without the safety net of the luxuries that had made compromise painless. I watched her finally meet my eyes, and in that silent exchange I offered neither mercy nor ultimatum, only the truth. She would have to choose what she wanted without the props. The clock on the mantel ticked. Time, for once, was not on her side yet. She stayed that night, not because I asked her to, but because she didn't have anywhere else to go. Her someone else, as it turned out, had already begun to fade into the shadows once her message had done its damage. A man like that never intended permanence. He was the thrill, not the anchor. When I came down the next morning, Emily was sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee between her trembling hands. No cream, no imported beans, just the kind of bitter supermarket brand she used to sneer at. She looked up as I entered. "I can't sleep," she murmured. "I'm not surprised," I said, pouring myself a cup. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," she whispered, voice almost childlike. "End your luxury life?" I asked. "You ended it yourself. I just cleaned up the remains." The words landed between us like a cold wind. She pressed her palms against the mug, searching for warmth that wasn't there. You always did everything for me. You made me feel safe. I made you comfortable, I corrected. There's a difference, she looked up, eyes red. I thought you'd fight for me. I did. For years. You just never noticed. The silence after that was heavy, but it wasn't cruel. It was clarifying. She realized then that love wasn't something you could text away and retrieve on demand. The next 48 hours became an unexpected mirror for both of us. She moved through the house like a guest in a place that used to be her kingdom. She washed dishes, folded laundry, asked permission to use things she once owned. And me? I watched. Not out of vengeance, but observation. There was a kind of poetic symmetry to it. The woman who'd traded affection for attention now stripped of both, forced to confront the emptiness left behind. By the second evening, she broke down completely. I found her sitting by the window, phone clutched in her hand. He blocked me, she whispered. I nodded. People who chase excitement rarely stay for consequences. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I don't know who I am without you, Michael. The words were soft, sincere, maybe even true, but I'd learned something crucial in those 2 days. You can forgive someone, but you can't forget what they were willing to risk. I sat beside her, not touching, just close enough for her to feel presence without comfort. You'll have to figure that out, I said. Maybe for the first time. She turned to me, eyes pleading. Is there a way back? Not to what we were, I said. That version of us died the moment you hit send. The truth stung her, but it was honest. She nodded, biting her lip as if holding back another wave of regret. Later that night, she packed a small bag. No designer luggage, no driver waiting at the door, just a worn duffel she'd found in the closet. She stopped at the doorway, looked back once more, and said, You were better to me than I ever was to you. And then she left. The house felt oddly peaceful after she was gone. Not empty, just lighter. I walked through the rooms she'd once filled with her perfume and her chaos, and for the first time, I felt something close to freedom. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd run after luxury, but it was simplicity that finally broke her. 2 weeks later, I got another text from her. Now I found someone else this time. Just 3 quiet words. I'm sorry, Michael, I didn't reply. Some messages deserve silence more than forgiveness, because sometimes ending someone's luxury life isn't revenge, it's revelation. You don't destroy them. You simply let them see themselves without the illusions you built for them. And when they come running back, it's not love they're chasing, it's the comfort they lost. But comfort, once taken for granted, isn't something you owe back.